Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. So, I've been married for a year now. I don't have a bad life or anything. In fact, I'm actually quite happy with my daily life. I don't have any children yet, and my husband and I are very fond of each other. We still go on dates and make time for each other. His love for me is immense, and he has shown me how much he loves me with his actions. And I love him too. But my mom never accepted him as her son in law. She kept refusing to accept him as my fiance and even refused to come to my wedding. No matter how hard my husband tried to get on her good side, she didn't give him any space to make his way in her life. It's not because he's a bad guy. In fact, in my opinion, he's the most decent human being. I mean, where else can you find a guy that's an actual walking green flag? It's just that my mom never believed me when I told her I love that man, and she still thinks I'm just settling down with the best option I have at the moment. Maybe she's right, but she had no right to judge me. I think it's enough to respect someone to spend your life with them. I knew he'll always treat me right and would be a great father in the future. So when he confessed to me the first time, I went along with it, and it was easy to imagine a life with him. But my mom still wouldn't accept him, and she keeps saying that one day I'll be too exhausted to care for someone out of kind respect, and then I'd realize that marrying him was a mistake. She keeps asking me out to meet her and arranges blind dates for me. About a month ago, she asked me to come over for lunch and that she had finally found my future husband. Usually, I ignore all her messages about these kinds of things or I'll shut her down. But that day, I was too stressed because of work and she got on my nerves. I decided to go over and tell her to her face that I'm a married woman now, and if she doesn't stop scheming her little encounters, I'll cut all contact with her. I was too furious to think straight and had a plan ready to humiliate her in front of her guests so that she'd stop asking me to meet her. But when I reached her house, everything that was on my mind completely vanished. I gotta say that my mom really knows my weak spots. When I entered the kitchen and saw the guy sitting there, I received the worst shock of my life. The guy was my ex from my last year of college. We had dated for 3 years before going our separate ways because of our work. He got an offer to work from San Francisco in an IT firm, while I was in New York working in journalism. We tried to make it work for a while, but LDR was too much to handle with our work life, and none of us was about to give up on our careers. So we ended our relationship. The problem was that he wasn't just someone I met in college. He was actually a family friend, and I met him the first time in high school and through a work dinner of my dad's. It was a pure coincidence that I found out he was at UCLA too in my last year when I came back for my sister's wedding, and he was there too. We really hit it off and decided to take a chance on each other. And now, when I saw him sitting at my mom's kitchen table, all those memories from the past hit me like a blast. Of course, I had moved on, but there was still a question of what if. Maybe he'd be my husband today if circumstances would have been right. And that's why I dropped my plan of humiliating my mom and threatening her to stop her efforts. We talked for a while that day, and I did tell him that I'm a married woman now. He was shocked to hear that, but he recovered from it well. After that day, even though I came home, I couldn't stop thinking about him sometimes. Every time I thought about my past and him, I felt really guilty, and it was like I was cheating on my husband. When I told a friend of mine about my thoughts, she said that we're human who are allowed to think about whatever we want, and I shouldn't feel guilty just because he was my past. Of course, I wanted to believe her so I could justify my thoughts. And I didn't even exchange contact numbers with him, so I wasn't really pursuing anything. That was until he asked my mom for my number and she happily passed it on. Later, he told me that she even encouraged him to pursue me if he wants and that I'm in an unhappy marriage. I corrected him, saying that I'm not available and that it was my choice to get married. My mom was the one who kept interfering in my life, and he shouldn't have any ideas about us in his mind. He confirmed that he understood my position and told me that he has also moved on in the last 4 years. But even now, we're still in contact. In fact, I even talk to him when something bothers me and have even had lunch with him since then a few times. I know it's wrong of me, but I just can't cut all contact with him for good now that I know he's living in New York too. I feel really guilty every time I talk to him, so I wanted an outside opinion. Is it wrong to just be friends with your ex, or am I an a-hole who's making excuses to justify myself? Should I tell my husband about what's happening, or just continue talking to him as I know I wouldn't let things move any forward with him? So I know what I was doing wasn't really wrong, but the guilty feeling I was having was because I knew that deep down I still liked my ex. And the only reason I'm still talking to him was because I wanted there to be a possibility of something more. A lot of you people who commented on my original post said that I am cheating on my husband and that I'm an a-hole, but honestly, I haven't done anything yet that is crossing the line, and I wouldn't do anything that would cross the line, and that's why I decided to come clean to my husband. I told him everything that had happened and how my mom, who couldn't accept him, was trying to set me up with other people. I told him about the guy being my ex and that we talk a little, but only as friends. I told him that I am definitely not doing anything wrong here, but if he has a problem with me being friends with my ex, then I'm willing to break off all contact. My husband was really pissed after finding out that my mom was going to such lengths to ruin our life, and I guess that anger influenced his decision of telling me to cut all contact with my ex. I know how understanding he could be, and this aggressive reaction was definitely because of my mom, but I didn't care to argue about it. As he told me, I talked to my ex and told him that we can't be friends or anything. I told him that I really love my husband and that our friendship, or whatever it was, might come in between my marriage, and I don't want that. We had a clean break, and he promised not to text or call me again. Remember how 6 months ago I told you guys about the ex that came into my life that I had to break all contact from because my husband told me he didn't like him? Well, I did end it with my ex, and life wasn't that hard after that, but I kept missing our conversations, and the things that seemed to make me happy before were irksome. I thought I'll be able to have a happy life with my husband, as he was a great guy and anyone would be lucky to have him. But for some reason, I kept feeling irritated by everything and snapped at him a lot. I knew it wasn't his fault, and I didn't want to take it out on him, but I couldn't help myself. For a few months, it looked like everything would be okay, but nothing went back to normal. One day, I finally gave up on trying to get a hold over my emotions and called my ex. He picked up right away, and after talking to him, I really felt relaxed. I knew that what I did was wrong and that there's no going back from there. That's why I told my husband about everything that was happening for the past few months. We fought, and he begged me to just think about it all over, but I couldn't really do it to him. I knew how I felt about the other guy, and I can't cheat on my husband. I told him that we should get a divorce, but he's refusing to do it. He is saying that he wouldn't just let me give up on our life. I don't know what else to do, so I moved out of the house and I'm currently living with my mom. It's been a year and my life has been turned completely upside down these past few months. My husband kept refusing to divorce me and I just wanted to give it all up. It all got so exhausting and suffocating at one point that I stopped caring about morals. I started a relationship with my ex and even told my husband about it. Finally, he gave me a divorce. The settlement wasn't equal and I refused to take his assets. We kept everything that was ours, and he doesn't even owe me alimony. The guilt of ruining his life was too much, and if it wasn't for my now boyfriend, my ex, I wouldn't have been able to deal with it. It's been a year now, and I'm living a happy life. I didn't talk to my mom for a few months because I blamed her for causing everything that happened. But now, things are a little better between us. Although she has stopped inviting me to meet anyone else, and that was a good thing. I keep thinking about my ex-husband and if he managed to find someone, but I don't have the courage to ask him. Hopefully, he's doing fine. YTA, what the heck? You're obviously the a-hole here. Not doing anything doesn't mean you're not cheating on him. It's obvious that your feelings are swaying and your husband has a right to know about it. YTA, do your husband a favor and leave him. He deserves someone a lot better than a person like you. Even if you haven't done anything yet, the guilt you're feeling is because you know that your feelings aren't true for your husband anymore. And I cannot sympathize with a person like you. I especially hate your mom for destroying a man's life. About 6 months ago, a casual friend of mine, Carl, asked me to take his little dog, Max, for 2 weeks while he went to visit his family. Max has separation anxiety and barks a lot if left alone, but I was recovering from some health issues and working from home at the time, so I agreed. It went smoothly at first, though my cat bullied him some. I thought it was odd that Carl never called to check on Max, but I figured he was enjoying his trip, so I sent update texts every few days and let it be. Carl didn't show at the end of the 2 weeks. No calls, no answering the dozen messages I left. I was still working from home at this point, so while I was very worried, I could still easily care for Max. By this point, the food had run out, and I am feeding him out of my own pocket. 4 weeks in, I am supposed to return to the office. I fib a bit to my doctor to get a note and extend my WFH period by another 2 weeks. Still nothing from Carl. We only have a few mutual friends, and none of them have heard from him either. I'm leaving voicemails every day. 6 weeks in, I have to go back to the office, and Max must be left alone during the day. It gets poorly. No one said anything the first week, but by week 2, I'm getting notes on my door about the barking. It doesn't take long until I get a call from my landlord that they're getting complaints and I need to do something about it. My cat is clearly miserable as well, as is getting meaner and meaner towards Max. I still attempt to contact Carl, but at this point I assume I won't hear back, possibly ever. I Google his name for arrest records or obituaries. I find his mom's Facebook and send a friend request with a message, but it was either an unused account or she ignored me because I never heard back. At nearly 8 weeks, I give Max to another friend's mom. She is retired, owns her own property, and lost her own dog last year, and I thought she'd be a perfect match for Max. I was right. He settled right in, and they're both very happy together. I am relieved that I could avoid surrendering Max at the shelter. I leave one final message for Carl. Last week, Carl showed up on my porch. He had a serious mental health episode and eventually landed in the hospital and then into a facility. He had lost his phone at some point near the beginning of his break and never received any of my messages. He was absolutely furious to find out that I had given his dog away. I had to close the door in his face after a while because he was scaring me. He made a mess on my porch and left. He's been calling me nonstop from different numbers to scream at me to get Max back, but I don't want to. Max is good where he is, but I'm struggling with my decision. On one hand, his condition is out of control, and it wasn't his fault that he abandoned Max. But on the other, objectively, it doesn't matter why. The dog is simply better off in a stable home. But maybe that's not my call to make. I'm not sure how I should feel, so AITA? NTA, honestly, it sounds like he probably isn't stable enough to be appropriately caring for this dog at the moment anyway. I have a brother who has bouts of very serious mental health episodes, and he keeps getting pets and rehoming them over and over again. Also, he probably should have left you with a way to contact someone, anyone other than him in an emergency. NTA, Carl needs to tell his mental health professional about this and work through it. You did the right thing. You went way above and beyond. He falls off the face of the earth for 6 months? The dog is well homed and happy. I don't buy the excuses. So he lost his phone? They didn't have phones where he was at? He knew the position he put you in by not even doing you the courtesy of a call or having his doctor call you. If he keeps coming around, call in a harassment complaint. NTA, you did much more than originally agreed to. Like it or not, dogs are property, and depending on jurisdiction, this dog was likely legally abandoned. You called him, called his friends, family, and work, and couldn't get a hold of him, so you found a very nice solution for the dog. I'm sure he's quite angry that he lost his dog, but that's on him, not you. If I were the person who took the dog in, I would not want this person to know who I was and where I live. So you are right to not tell him where the dog ended up. He will have to come to terms with the fact that he was unable to care for his dog, and the dog was rehomed. I, 25 female, do different art and have been doing so since I was a teenager. Sometimes I'll submit paintings to exhibitions in my local area. I've had some luck with some, which is cool, but since it can be such a gamble, I don't really try to participate in them. My friend Kyra, fake name 25 female, got into art when lockdown started. She does digital art and now painting. There was a gallery having a call for artists in the next town over, and Kyra asked me if she should submit pieces or not. I told her it was up to her, but since it's a new place, there'd probably be a lot of entries, and I told her to keep in mind digital art wasn't a medium being accepted, and that's mostly what she does. Artists were able to submit up to 5 pieces, and she submitted one. She didn't get selected. Our friend group was hanging out, and Kyra started talking about that art show and another one she heard about. She was debating whether or not she was going to try when she went, "If I was as privileged as Floral Froggy, I'd probably have more luck with getting my work out there." I asked her what she meant, and she told me she was referring to my having better supplies, taking art classes, and having gotten into 2 shows in 10 plus years. I told her that that isn't privilege because she can be doing the same and have the same. In fact, she did to a point because I gifted her some of my really good brushes and paints when she got started. She told me my art classes and special classes in high school were privilege. I told her, "You could have gone to the specialized high school too. All you had to do was apply, but you wanted to stay at base high school with friends. I work 2 jobs so I can pay for art classes and my supplies. You stick to YouTube videos and paint a couple of times a week. You're trying to compete against people who live and breathe art. Privilege has nothing to do with you not getting selected." Kyra got mad and left with some of our friends. She and they've been saying I need to apologize to her and I shouldn't have said anything to be considerate of her feelings. Other friends are on my side and say she may not have wanted to hear it, but she needed to. So I don't know. AITA because I told her the truth instead of just letting it go? NTA, art requires dedication. It is not a traditional career path and it's a highly competitive market with no guarantees. She may or may not have access to the same things you did. That being said, none of that is your problem and your friend is on some jealous pick me type shit. Do not apologize for giving her a reality check. NTA, it doesn't sound like you are particularly privileged, but rather more dedicated to your art than she is. I don't think what you said was the problem, maybe more how you said it. Can you apologize for the way you said it to keep the peace and then explain what you meant in kinder words? If you want to take the high road and are willing to help her, you could always offer to paint with her once in a while too, though if you've given her some of your supplies, perhaps you're already doing that. NTA, she reduced your hard work, dedication, and investment in your craft to privilege. If she had the same opportunities, which she refused to take when they were presented, that's on her. Also, she's been at this since being in lockdown, so 2 years tops, and thinks that anything short of being related to the owner or a major donor would allow her get her one piece accepted to a brand new gallery with what had to be dozens, if not hundreds, depending on your proximity to other galleries, of entries. Ooh, lad, entitlement in this one.